Zelda is a great franchise that's filled with the most quality adventure games ever, and Link's crossbow training.
This is the part where I admit that I haven't played a lot of Zelda games in my life.
I mean, I've dabbled in a few of the games. I've played the first two Zeldas as well as Link's Awakening. Oh yeah, and Breath of the Wild. But other than that, I haven't played too many Zelda games, nor have I beaten any. Except for two Zelda games that are infamous for how bad they are. Two Zelda games that would go down as the worst games in the franchise. I'm of course talking about Zelda's Adventure, except that's only one game, and honestly I don't really have it in me to talk about this fucking abomination. Instead, I'm talking about Link the Faces of Evil and Zelda the One of Gamelon. Two Zelda games that released on the Philips CD-i, a piece of shit console that was marketed as a multimedia system. That's right, kiddos, you could play Flintstones and Jetsons Time Warp, and then you can learn to play the keyboard on the same shitty hardware for $800? Holy fucking shit. But how did three Zelda games end up coming to a non-Nintendo console, you ask? Well, the story actually starts back when the Super Famicom released, where Nintendo noticed that CDs were becoming incredibly resourceful for games. CDs allowed for stuff like CD quality music as well as FMV, or full motion video. Not only that, but CDs were far cheaper to produce than cartridges were. So Nintendo wanted a piece of that pie. In other words, they wanted to utilize the power of CDs with an add-on for the Super Famicom that allowed it to play CDs. So Nintendo and Sony teamed up to work on the add-on together. However, Nintendo feared that Sony would take too much control of the project, and to a lesser extent, the whole company. So Nintendo decided to make a deal with Philips, as they didn't see Philips as a threat to the company. So the day after Sony announced the Nintendo PlayStation, yes, that's actually what it was going to be called, Nintendo announced that they were working with Philips now. That's right, everyone. Put on your party hats so you got from a party city where pretty much everything is on clearance because the store is shutting down. Nintendo's now working with Philips. Yippee! However, after Nintendo noticed the poor reception of the Sega CD, the add-on for the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive, Nintendo ultimately decided to pull the plug on the add-on. And to dissolve their contract with Philips, Nintendo gave Philips the rights to franchises such as Mario and Zelda, as Philips was working on their own video game console, and the rest is basically history. So on October 10th, 1993, Link the Faces of Evil and Zelda the One of Gamelon were released into the world, and were met with a fair amount of mixed reviews at the time.
I wonder why.
Well, let's find out together, shall we? There's one problem though.
I don't have a Philips CD-i.
So you know what that means, folks. Yeah, let's buy one, son of a bitch. Not too surprising though, as this console didn't do too well sales-wise. It's almost like literally nobody wanted to pay $800 for the interactive media player when systems like the SNES and Genesis were hundreds cheaper. Huh. Anyway, I'm gonna be emulating these games on RetroArch, sorry for the cock tease. And you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna play Faces of Evil, cause why not?
Okay, cool intro.
So the game boots up and oh hell yes, a help option. Surely there won't be a jump scare once I select it.
Hey! Wanna fight the forces of evil in Korodai? Check it out! It's easy! You got this map, see?
Okay, so I have some points to bring up. 1. Why does Link actually talk in this game? B. These games have cutscenes that are...
This'll make a great omelet. Here! Thanks.
Numero 3.
This is the most boring tutorial I've ever seen. It's just a pretty bare bones tutorial that gives you the basic understanding of how the game works, but at least it has Morshu and the duck walk. The One of Gamelon version doesn't though. Eh, screw it, let's just play the game at this point. Oh, holy shit. This is one of the slowest video games I've ever played. Like seriously, I've never seen a game where the main character moves at the actual speed equivalent of a snail. And what is this god-awful jump? It's so stiff and barely gets you any height. Like seriously, I can't even describe how much of a pain in the living ass it is just to make a simple jump like this. And tell me, dear viewer, why the fuck do you have to push up to jump in these games? Seriously, out of all the buttons on this controller, why did this one have to be the jump button? It just wears on your thumb after a while of playing. But hey, at least the backgrounds are pretty nice. Yeah, in all seriousness though, I don't really get why people hate the backgrounds of these games. Other than the fact that the backgrounds are the level design and 90% of the time you're praying you can land on a thing you need to fucking land on to progress, and god, I hate the jump in this game. But I mean, hey, the backgrounds still look fairly decent. Speaking of actual good things in these games, the music is actually fairly solid. Does it fit Zelda? No, not really. However, on their own, the songs are actually really catchy. I mean, just listen to some of the tracks in these games. With all that being said though, that's kind of where my positives end. Because these games are just not that well thought out. Seriously, the amount of shit that you just have to figure out on your own is just dumb. Like, how am I supposed to know in order to kill these fire dinosaur things I need to farm snowballs in Nortinka? And vice versa with these snow guys. You need to kill them with fire stones. What the fuck is a fire stone? Seriously, this fire and ice mechanic in Faces of Evil just is not fun. It's just tedious and annoying. Also, why do I need to continuously use the lamp just so I can see in the dark? Why can't I just use it once and that's it? Why can't I stab small enemies even when I'm crouching? Why do I even bother asking anything at all? These games just love spawning in flying enemies every 5 milliseconds, which is incredibly annoying because jumping and attacking at the same time is so clunky that most of the time it just doesn't work. And the fact that after 3 deaths you're kicked right back to the world map, where, guess what, you need to do the whole level again! And it wouldn't be so bad if 95% of my deaths weren't just these games being clunky as hell. Okay, that one was my fault. Seriously, most of the time these games are just miserable. However, I can't deny that these games are charming as hell, especially with the cutscenes, which...
See how Harlequin captures Coridians?
You lose.
Do you know what it means when you lose your last ruby? Now you work for me! Take him away!
Are masterpieces. The legacy of these games is also pretty charming, as these games and their awful cutscenes would eventually be used in YouTube poops, a genre of YouTube all about taking a source and editing it to be comedic, or this.
It's absolutely perfect.
And with how goofy these games' cutscenes were, they are pretty much ripe for editing material. So here's some funny clips to prove that fact.
I'll do it only once, so open wide your eyes.
Bombs?
Oh, shit!
Nature's calling.
Yeah, don't question it. The crazy part is that these types of videos are actually still being made to this day. And guess what? Even I've made some of these.
In my defense, this is my second YTP I made.
If you want to actually play these games nowadays, I'd recommend either emulating the games, but if you actually want to have fun while playing these, I'd highly recommend checking out the remastered versions by Dopply, who would actually later go on to make Arzet the Jewel of Faramore, which is actually a spiritual successor to these shitty games that suck ass. The remastered versions, while not perfect, are definitely the best way to play these games, as Link and Zelda don't move at the speed of a dead squirrel and the jump is so much less stiff. And they also prove how short these games really are. Like, no joke, I played the remaster of Wanna Gamelon one night and beat it in 36 minutes. No, I'm not joking.
The voice cast in these games should star in the upcoming Zelda movie.